Hi everyone. It's a little chilly in here. So my internship was with the team that filed the Cook v. Raimondo in the Rhode Island Federal Court. I worked at the Rhode Island Center for Justice, and Jennifer Wood, my supervisor and the executive director there, is here today. And this work was in conjunction with the Center for Educational Equity at the Teachers College at Columbia University. So I'm going to talk about three things today. I'm going to quickly go through my role, what I did, and then I'm going to talk about what this lawsuit is really about, and then I'm going to talk about key lessons. So on November 28th, 14 plaintiffs filed a class action lawsuit in Rhode Island Federal Court. This lawsuit claims that students have a right to an education that provides them opportunity to learn and develop the knowledge, skills, experiences, and values they need to exercise their constitutional rights. So their 15th Amendment right to vote, the First Amendment right to speak, to petition their government, and to participate in the democratic processes. The plaintiffs are students and parents across Rhode Island, and the main defendants are Governor and the Commissioner of Education. So, quick timeline. I started this internship in September, and this lawsuit was filed in late November. And the defendants filed a motion to dismiss in March, and on coming Monday, the plaintiffs are filing a response. So, as you can see, this lawsuit is in its initial stages, and there's a lot more to come. So my work, I can think about my work at like two different stages: before the lawsuit was filed and after the lawsuit was filed. Where I worked in a lot of gathering data in preparation for the lawsuit, so facts and evidence about the state of civic education in Rhode Island, interviewing plaintiffs, managing communication with over 90 plus people, and community engagement work with local education leaders, and coordinating a lot of media activities. And so once the lawsuit was filed, we got a lot of media coverage. Some of the outlets like Education Week, New York Times, Atlantic Monthly. And now if you go to New York Times now, and if you look at the comments section, they're full of comments from teachers, parents around the country who've talked about the implications of this lawsuit. So why is this important? We can all agree that American democracy today faces severe challenges. And schools can be places where we can foster important dialogue because people from different racial and income backgrounds come together. And today, only 23% of students are proficient in civics, according to NAEP data from 2014. In 2006, in the midst of both the midterm elections and the Iraq War, less than 50% could name the three branches of the government. And the US ranks 139th out of 172 world democracies in voter participation. More broadly, today's education system systematically denies many students meaningful opportunity to develop values and skills that are required for active civic participation. And so if we're thinking about this lawsuit, we have to talk about the historical context, which starts around 1973 with San Antonio School District v. Rodriguez, where the Supreme Court ruled by a 5-4 majority vote that disparities in education funding in Texas was not unconstitutional. And the following year, another case argued for the local control that is deeply rooted in the operation of schools. So does that mean the case is closed? In the dissenting opinion, Justice Marshall talked about how education is an important fundamental interest, talked about the close relationship between education and some of our most basic constitutional values. However, justices agreed that education is important, but they said that the plaintiffs in Rodriguez had not presented enough evidence that would allow the courts to consider the quantum of education that might be necessary for students to be prepared to exercise their constitutional rights. So why Rhode Island? Education funding, as most of you know, education funding has been litigated in 47 states, and 60% of the state courts held that there is a right for adequate and sound basic education. However, 40% held that plaintiffs had not presented enough evidence, and Rhode Island is one of those states where the last two cases were not successful. Way back when, in mid-20th century, 3 civics-related courses were common in American high schools. But students today in Rhode Island public schools are not required to take any courses in civics. Social studies specialist position has been unfilled for the last 6 years at RIDE, and no state examinations or accountability to assess civics knowledge. Many educators and policy organizations have urged states to adopt standards that emphasize high-order thinking skills and critical analytic approaches to civics. And one example is the College Career and Civic Life Framework for Social Studies, which has been implemented in a few other states, but not completely in Rhode Island. So improving education system is complex. It's a serious undertaking, and I think the broad variety of UEP internships that we have here is a statement to that. However, I think I've learned that litigation is such an important way of moving education improvement forward, and that has been really valuable for me as part of this program. And I think at the core of it, this lawsuit is about the inequities in education, because I'm sure there are schools in Rhode Island or across the country where civics education or the opportunities to develop those capacities is widely abundant, but however, there are schools that are not providing those, and those are the children that are being left behind, and I think this is the lawsuit that actually pushes for that. More broadly, I think today education research, we talk about education research in terms of academic achievement as driven by test scores. And however, we all know those are narrow measures, and I think similar to what NCLB did with test scores, I think this lawsuit in the future we could talk about more broader measures and improve the language you use for education research. I want to thank Professor Wang, Professor Pape, and Christina for, when I first saw this internship, I was like, looks a little bit different. I don't know if I want to do it. But they encouraged me to take on, and I'm so glad because I got to work with Jennifer, who is an amazing supervisor and mentor, and I'm so glad for this opportunity. And I look forward to be a part of this as we move on. Thank you.